In this last video, we're going to look at the two-step calculations involving mass and atoms. So we have seen previously how to go mass to moles, moles to mass, moles to atoms, atoms to moles. Now we have to combine sort of all those into one big calculation. In these examples, we're just going to basically start with mass and then go to moles and then go to atoms. There is no easy way to go from mass straight to atoms. What we have to do now is to go between mass and moles, we know we've got to use the molar masses off of the periodic table. One of the things you got to think about is, well, which way do I write that? I'm going from mass to moles. I'm going to write that a certain way. It's going to be different if I were going moles to mass. Now, adding to that, moles to atoms, I'm going to have to use Avogadro's number. Two possible ways that we've been writing Avogadro's number. You've got to correctly figure out the right way to go. Don't do this as two separate calculations. Do this as one long calculations with two steps. Jumping to the other example is, what if we have to go from atoms all the way back to mass? Nothing changes. We go atoms to moles. We're going to have to somehow use Avogadro's number. Then we can go moles back to mass using molar mass off of the periodic table. When you do these two types of problems, do not try to memorize when to multiply and when to divide. Just know if I've got to go between atoms and moles or moles and atoms, I got to use Avogadro's number. If I have to do any calculation between moles and mass or mass and moles, got to use molar mass off the periodic table. What I've got up here is I've got 6 different problems that are just straight up do the calculation, get the answer. So what I'll have you do is I'll have you pause this and work on these real quick. Take your, go through them and show your work and all that stuff. Then I will come back and post all the answers. If you didn't get any of the answers that I have listed, then ask about them in class and we can talk about them there. So at this time, go ahead and pause and take some time and work on some of those. Okay, so if you've gone through and you've worked through these 6 answers, on the next screen when I flip it over, I'm going to show you the answers to these. A couple things to keep in mind. Use every number off the periodic table. Use 6.022 for Avogadro's number, because using those numbers, you will never have to round based upon those. What should be able to happen is you should go down through and all of your answers in terms of significant figures should all be based upon these numbers listed here. So we've got 3, 4, 3, 3, 4, and 3. All your answers should be rounded off of that. So pulling those up, here's what your answers should be. 4.24 times 10 to the 22nd atoms of K, 32.78 moles of iron, 100 with a decimal point moles of sodium. That's important because we rounded to the ones place. We have 31.3 moles of sodium, 1.242 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of lead, and 1,670 grams of lead. Those are the answers for those 6 problems. That really covers all the different problems that we would have to do at the end of section 3. So if you've gotten all those right, you're probably in pretty good shape. If there's maybe 1 or 2 you didn't quite get the right answer, then definitely we probably want to talk about it in class. So what you can do is you can pause this for a second if you need to and kind of check all your answers, and then I have one last thing we'll talk about. All right, so here's sort of a summary. How's the best way to solve all these problems? First of all, kind of think about what are the steps? What are they giving me? What number is given in the question? What are they asking me to find? Once you've sort of identified what they've given and what they want you to find, think about my steps. Oh, I have to do a mass to mole problem, or I have to use an atoms to mass problem. Right, so on and so forth. Now, the second thing, you got to think about, okay, what conversion factors do I got to use? Oh, I got to use molar mass, but I don't need Avogadro's number. For maybe another problem, say, oh, I got to use Avogadro's number and molar mass. Then the last thing is you got to decide, how do I use them? Am I multiplying or am I dividing? Well, write it out so that you can cancel terms. Then remember, the last thing is don't start with a conversion factor, because you don't know if you're going to go 1 mole over Avogadro's number or not until you're in the problem. So you always start out with what's in the question, what they gave you. Use conversion factors so you get to the final answer. If you can kind of set them up like this way, then usually you're in pretty good shape. And that should be taking care of what we need.